Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson with my co-host Kay Johnson. So what have you been reading this month, Kay?
Well, Betsy, I decided after a string of romance novels that I should maybe read something of substance. Mm-hmm. So I found a book called Chasing Aphrodite, which was popped up on one of my many book feeds. And it's the hunt for looted antiquities at the world's richest museum. And it's a true story.
Okay.
And it takes place at the Getty Museum in California.
Okay.
And anyway, for years, museums bought antiquities on the black market. Looted and things that didn't have provenance. And in the 60s, these countries like Italy and Greece said, stop, no more. And they started filing suit against the different museums.
Yeah.
And this book is about them going after the Getty.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting because J. Paul Getty, who founded the museum, the billionaire oil guy, was an antiquities freak. And that's kind of what started that Getty. He set up the museum as a tax shelter in Malibu, of course. And then went on to buy all these pieces and so on and so forth. But it was interesting because I really didn't know anything about antiquities other than I'm not surprised that they're stolen because you read about that and stuff. And so it was an interesting read and I would recommend it. It was by a guy named Jason Felch and Ralph Framolino.
That kind of sounds similar to The Woman in Gold. It was a movie with Ryan Reynolds and Helen Mirren.
Oh, okay.
And that's where she wants to sue for a picture that was painted of her aunt. And that was supposed to be given to her, but this museum kept it. That was
World
really
War
good
II,
too.
wasn't it?
Yes, yep. They were a Jewish family. And then they were sent to the camps and everything, and their
art was
confiscated. Which then also ties into, from there would be the Monuments Men.
Yes, which is a real
book series.
It's a book. The Monuments book is 1,000% better than the movie.
Okay, I just got that book, so I'm looking into reading that one.
Yeah, it's really interesting how they saved the artwork of Europe from Nazi plunder. And that'd be those folks in Germany went whole hog for artwork.
Oh, yeah. They were going to build a whole big museum.
Yeah, they were. And they didn't want degenerate stuff. So if you were a... Yeah. But they, the smart money took the degenerate art and kept it. And so the Monets and all those were saved, which is great. Yeah, the Monuments Men. The movie's good. Book's great.
Yeah, I never saw the movie.
Oh,
but
movie's got definitely some high points.
Okay. I will read it and then watch it as I usually do.
Yeah, you're just going to wish that there's just not a lot of substance to the movie. And it could have been. Could have been great. Wasn't that great. I always thought Ken Burns should do a
series on
documentary on Monument Men because he would know how to treat it so that it was compelling to watch and true to history and so, but who knows, maybe someday.
Maybe.
He's doing one on country music right now.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, with the traditional country.
Yeah.
It's supposed to come out, I think, next year, which is, it's like one of his big ones, not like just a single episode, but.
Nice.
So it should be interesting, I think. So what have you been reading, my dear?
Well, one of the high point ones I finished was, I was on a Neil Gaiman kick, through October with Halloween. So I listened to the audio version of Good Omens, which is by him. And so this is the story of an angel and a demon working together to try to stop the end of the world.
And how'd that work out for them?
Well, the audiobook is amazing because the audiobook reads like how it's done is done like a radio drama.
Oh, so that would be good.
It was very good, very funny. I would have to go and look at the book to see how it's written, but to me it was probably one of the best audiobooks I've listened to in a long time.
Oh, wow.
So
does he read his own books?
He was part of it.
Okay.
Usually he does like the narrator part at least, but this was a whole cast of people. So they had like a bunch of kid actors who were the kid characters. They had a guy that was the angel, a guy that was the demon. So they had a whole
they did it like a
cast.
radio
So it was like
play,
a radio
okay.
drama, and it was just, I want to say it was just like 5-6 hours, and it was really quick. And every chapter, it was at the end of every chapter they would say, and this scene was about this. So it's just like vignettes about everything from like the birth of the Antichrist, and then them trying to like find him, and then they're trying to prevent the end of the world, and it made me laugh.
Is it good?
It is. It was very good. Yeah, and I mean, he, like I said, he just always kind of nails his genre.
So why did you choose the audiobook for that book instead of the print
well,
version?
I listened to the audiobook version of The Graveyard Book, which I talked about on one of the last episodes, and I've always heard really good things about his audiobooks. I have a couple book groups I'm in on Facebook, and people had been asking for suggestions on audiobooks, and every time somebody always says, you gotta listen to Neil Gaiman, his audiobooks, because they're always so good, and he does a lot of the narrating himself, which is always fun to listen to. And so I was like, well, we'll give it a try. And
So did you get it at the library?
I did. I got it through the Libby app.
Okay.
So, which is what they kind of switched over from Overdrive to.
Yes.
It's the new one. So yeah.
And so you were able to download an MP3 file?
You could listen to it I listened to it right in the app.
Oh,
the Libby
okay.
app. If you download the audiobooks, it just puts them onto a shelf, and you can just click on them right in the app itself.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, and so it's fun to be able to, I just kind of play that as I'm around the house or if I'm in the car.
So were you listening to it on your phone?
Through my phone, yep. I would just either lay the phone down, or I can hook my phone up to a speaker that we have in our house, and it'll just play it, or it through my headphones.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So it's a good way to, if you have a really busy day but you just don't really want to listen to music, or there's nothing good on the radio.
So the Libby app's free, correct?
Yes.
You just download it either at the
Yep, I think
the Apple Store,
I think
or
it's through
the
Google Play or the Google Store. Microsoft, is it? Or I think it's Google Play and Apple.
Yep.
And then I just had to put in my
library
card.
Okay.
And then
Same way you do ebooks.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I just put in the library card, and then it downloads it into the app, and then once you get it on, there's a place called Your Shelf. Mm-hmm. Once you go there, you can either send it to your Kindle.
Okay.
If you would prefer to read it on there, so it'll send it like it would send it to my Kindle app,
Okay.
or you can read it in the app itself.
Okay.
So, yeah, it works really nice, and I mean, you get the books I think you get for the 28 days, just like a library book, and then the audio books are 14 days, either 14 or 21 days.
And you never have to worry about being late because
it'll
disappeared.
send you an email saying your loan is running out, and then if the day hits and you haven't renewed it, it just is gone. So the next time you log in, it's just gone, and it's
so you
just
don't have to
gone back.
worry about returning it.
No late fees.
No late fees. Yep, that's good. I agree.
Yes. So yeah, I really like it. I do that a lot. It's nice to have the option of having a couple books on your phone. And just if you wind up waiting somewhere longer than you thought.
Oh yeah, I always have books on my phone, not the audiobooks, the print books or Kindle app I read, and so I can just look at them if I'm somewhere. And
No, I mean it's nice, especially with, it's winter now. You're not gonna always want to leave and drive to the library, so it's kind of nice to be able to pull up the Libby app and look through and just download a book. Or good time to pick up an old favorite too.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful service, and the fact that it's free is just really outstanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And you can there's a ton of audiobooks on Libby and a ton of Kindle as well as other formats.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and a lot of looking at my list here, I think 5 out of the 6 books that I have written down here I got through that app on my phone. So
I haven't used the app. I've done it on my computer. Gone into Overdrive and just downloaded. Yeah. But I haven't done the app yet, so I will have to look into that.
It's really easy, really user-friendly. There's ways to go through and narrow down your preferences if you want to see books that are just available now, or if you want to see just audiobooks, or just books that you can download onto your Kindle. You can filter all that down.
I've been able to to get in the queue for
Yes.
books that aren't available. So then I get an email saying is now available downloads. Like,
Those are
yes.
the best emails.
Yes, I agree.
They're my favorite kind
I
of mail.
agree. I think they're wonderful because it's like always a present waiting.
Definitely.
So I think it's a wonderful service that the library's made available.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you look at the price of ebooks now. I mean, they're 13, 14, 15
Yeah.
bucks. And now you can get them, if you don't mind waiting. Or if you're Johnny on the spot and you're number
Yeah.
in the first ones, yeah. So it's a cool thing to have. So if you haven't tried it, like we said, you can download it at the Apple Store or the Google Store.
Yeah,
Google Play.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, just ask at the front desk at the library.
Yeah.
And they should be able to help you, or Katie Hiltner is the head librarian. This isn't Hutch. You should be able to ask at any of the libraries in the McLeod County or Meeker County.
And even as far as I know, like I think it's is it Greater Plains? Whatever the library system is in Cokato with Wright County, they also have an
Libby?
ebook, the Libby, I think, in Overdrive as well for those. The only downside is that, it's just sort of if you're in that library system, it's kind of tied to your zip codes as to what it is what I kind of noticed.
Because Dassel is in Pioneerland.
Yes. Yep.
Right. And that's Litchfield, Cosmos, Dassel, Glencoe, and Hutch.
There's a lot.
And Winstead.
There's a
and
lot
Broughton.
of them. Appleton. There's a bunch of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to go. There's a whole big list.
Oh, but
For
not
Pioneerland.
Oh, for Pioneerland, really
Yeah.
that big? Okay. So I was just always looking our area.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of them. Olivia.
Oh yeah, because the whole list comes up if you're ordering books from somewhere. Okay, yeah, that's right.
So another audiobook I listened to was the first in the Riley Spart series, which is by Julie Kramer. She's a Minnesota author, and it was called Stalking Susan.
Oh, I've interviewed her.
Yep. And so Riley Sparts is a TV journalist, and she is just coming back to work after a personal tragedy, and she's presented this case by one of her police informants of someone who is murdering women named Susan on the same day a year apart.
Oh.
And it also comes to light that he's taking something from the one lady he murders and he's putting it on the next body.
Ooh.
So, and then there's also, so she's working on this story, but because her boss wants more of a feel-good type story, she's also looking into the possibility of a vet not returning the ashes of the pets that he's supposedly having.
What's he doing?
He's just throwing them away and giving them like charcoal or something. I don't know. It's really weird, but they all take place in the cities, and in this book, she talks quite a bit about like the 35W bridge.
Okay. Oh, the collapse.
The collapse of that, talking about, she really ties in, and she talks about one of the people she goes and talks to all the time works at the Mall of America.
Okay.
And so it's really kind of fun to be like, oh yeah, I know where that is. And so, I actually just started the second one, which is called Missing Mark.
Oh, okay. Because there's like 4 or 5?
I think so, yeah. But, and the one I just started, she's looking for her next story in Missing Mark, and she comes across an ad for a wedding dress for sale that was never worn. And so she goes to kind of find out about it, and it turns out that the groom never showed up at the wedding, so they canceled the wedding. And everybody figured he got cold feet, but nobody has seen or heard from him since.
So he's the missing groom.
So he's missing. And then it's, well, why didn't we hear about this sort of thing? And so I just started it, so I'm not really far into it yet.
Is it good
but
so far?
So far, yeah. Yeah, and the Stalking Susan I listened to the audiobook of as well, and that was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have been reading none other than Carl Hiaasen.
Your favorite.
He is. He truly is one of my very, very favorite authors. And I was looking through my Kindle, trying to find something to read. And I saw on my Kindle Unlimited, they had Tourist Season for $1.99, which is it's written about mid-1980s, so it's an old Hiaasen, one of his very first ones. And I thought, I haven't read it, so I downloaded it. And oh my gosh, it was so funny. I literally would start laughing as I'm sitting there reading it. So funny, because this book is about a millionaire. He's a Native American who he's a millionaire because of bingo halls. And then there's a guy who writes columns for the Miami paper. He's a columnist. And then there's two other guys. There's four guys, and they form a terrorist group because they want to kick the tourists out of Florida. And so to do that, they start killing tourists. And it gets so complicated, and it's so Hyacinth. You know, they're all twisted.
Yeah.
And it's really good, and it's really funny. Mm-hmm. And it's got all of his fingerprints on it, you know, like conservation and bad exploitation of the land and all that kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it is really good. So then from there, I went to see which ones I had in my own library, and I had 6 of his books, and I went on to read Skin Tight.
Okay.
It's about plastic surgery. And it starts out because there's a detective, his name's Mick Stranahan, and he worked for I think the Miami police as a homicide detective. Then he went and worked for the state, and he shot a crooked judge. So they pensioned him off because of a disability. So he's living out in some shack out in the middle of somewhere doing nothing.
Oh, gosh.
And it's always bugged him that this woman died, and he could never figure out what happened to her. She vanished. She had had a nose job done and vanished off the earth. So he's digging around thinking about it. And anyway, the surgeon who performed the operation is just a hack. He's been sued many times, and he just pays everybody off. So he doesn't really do the surgery. He has like 6 certified plastic surgeons under him who does it. And it's just so funny because this is another case where this doctor hires a hitman to take out Mick Stranahan, and it's some strange fellow whose face was attacked by some kind of something, and it's like he's got Rice Krispies on his face, and he ends up falling off the dock and ends up getting his arm eaten by a barracuda. And so instead of getting a prosthesis, he has a weed whipper attached so he can attack people, because he's also a bouncer at a gay bar.
Gosh.
But it's strictly Hyacinth, and it is so funny. In fact, when I was reading it, I was reading the last maybe 30 pages today at work. I was having lunch at my desk, and oh my God, I was just chuckling. And I know my colleague Jeremy Jones is probably wondering, why is she laughing over there? But to Jeremy's wisdom, he did not ask, which I don't know is more frightening or not. So if you're looking for a book to read and you have a great sense of humor, read Carl Hiaasen. He's a columnist for the Miami Journal, Miami Globe, I forget which one, but the big newspaper in Miami.
Okay.
And he also writes all these really, really great novels. And right now, I'm going to start reading Skinny Dip. Have you read Skinny Dip?
Have not. No.
It starts out with this man throws his wife off a cruise ship. And she happens to be a champion swimmer, and she gets her hand caught in a bale of marijuana. And she ends up on Mick Stranahan's island.
So they're very believable, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm saying really, yeah, they just break me up, and if it's crazy, Hyacinth will highlight it. But he's a fabulous writer. I just really, really enjoy him.
I know you do.
I gave Skinny Dip one year to people for Christmas.
Yeah, I remember him. I think you gave it to Mom and Becca. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think I gave it to your mom, and I think Becca got it separate. Okay. I think she downloaded it. But if you're looking for a good book, Skinny Dip is pretty darn good.
Oh, goodness. What else did I read last month? Well, I'm still kind of working my way through the Hannah Swenson series.
Oh, and is it good?
Yeah, it is. I just finished
book number 431?
No, I think this was book 3 or 4. I think it was 3.
That's not so bad. I was thinking it was a bigger series.
It is a bigger series, but I haven't made a big dent in it yet.
Okay.
So I just finished one called The Blueberry Muffin Murder.
Okay. Was it good?
It was. So in the little town in Minnesota, I think it's made up. I meant to look, but I
This
didn't
is
get a
Joanne
chance
Fluke?
to. Yes.
Yep,
Yep.
okay.
So they're having this big winter carnival to try to increase tourism and everybody coming to town. And there's a big name, like cooking channel lady that comes
Okay.
in and is supposed, and she's just kind of a terrible, wants everything her way, horrible to her staff. And she takes over Hannah's shop to remake this cake because the one she made got wrecked.
Okay.
And so Hannah comes into work the next morning and the woman is dead in her pantry with one of her blueberry muffins in her hand.
Oh.
Which is similar to the book previously was the Strawberry Shortcake Murder.
Okay.
Where the man was found dead in her strawberry shortcake.
That's right.
So
Hannah has an unfortunate
she does,
luck.
and it's just funny because they say that in the book. Like her mother will call and say, "Oh, did you hear so and so's died?" And she'll be like, "Well, yeah, they did." And she'll be like, "Please don't tell me you're the one that found the body." People are going to start to talk, Hannah. And it's she's got two guys that she sort of likes, and one of them is his mother is her mother's best friend. So they're trying to set them up, and she has. It's just a great group of characters in it. And she has this cat.
We know about cats.
Yes, the cat's name is Mushi. And he is constantly like trying to get at his food in this cupboard. And so she had to finally install this lock on it. And so at the end of the book, she has this person staying with her, and she's like, "Well, I had to get up so early." And she's like, "Why?" She's like, "Well, he figured out how to unlock the cupboard, and he'd been eating all of his food." But so it's just really funny, and it's just one of those nice cozy mysteries that you can just read and you don't have to think so hard about them.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
So
But
have you read Michelle Obama's book,
I have not.
Becoming? Because I know at least two people who are reading it right now.
Okay. Yes, I've looked at it about putting myself on hold for it a couple of times, but I think I'm gonna just wait and let it kind of wind down a little bit.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people reading it. I think the list is really long.
And with the groups that I'm a part of on Facebook with people that are reading, and quite a few of them have purchased it or are waiting for it, and so I think it's going to be a big one probably.
Yeah, I think it's doing better than Hillary's and Trump's books.
That's not
Not really surprising.
not really surprising given our political climate.
That's true, yeah.
But
it's supposed to be really good though, so I put it on my
Yeah.
list as one that I definitely want to look at. I just haven't yet. My sister Jill, who is recovering from a knee replacement, is reading it actually.
Oh, okay.
And then a couple friends of mine are reading it, and so
Yeah.
I was curious if you had.
No, I've been trying to read books that are available because every year on the Goodreads app you can do a personal reading challenge where you
Sure.
try to read how many books you want to read in a year. And so of course I set my goal. Last year I wanted to read 60 books and I read 95.
You exceeded your
I
goal.
exceeded my expectation, but I was also home and stuck on the couch holding a child that refused to nap in his crib. So I was stuck on the couch for 6 hours throughout the day. So I could read plenty of books. And so this year I set my goal a little higher and I wanted to read 100 books. And I'm only read 80 some books this year.
Wow.
So, I mean, I have a couple weeks left. So I'm hoping I can still maybe hit that 100 books. But I know a lot of people are kind of starting to gear up for next year and figuring out what they want to do for reading challenges, whether if it's people want to read so many books or if they want to read a different type of book. Or
So what are you doing for a reading challenge?
I don't know yet. I'm trying to decide. I want to kind of see where I end up with, if I can read the actual 100 books or what I want to do. There's actually, I've seen it around on the internet that you can purchase it. It's a big poster and it has scratch off windows with the name of 100 books. And so as you read the book, you scratch off the scratch off piece and then it shows the title.
Okay.
And so there are a few people that have purchased that. And
so then do you scratch it off to see what your next book is?
No, you scratch it off when you finish it.
Oh.
So then so you have all the titles, and then when you finish it, you scratch off the book. So then you
Okay.
see the cover. So then once you've read all 100, you would have 100 covers and just a poster.
But they're books
There's certain books, yeah.
Oh.
I think it's kind of a mix of modern and
Okay.
contemporary classics, and everything like that. I haven't had a chance to look at it real closely, but it just seemed like a really interesting idea.
I think it's an interesting idea to be able to scratch off book covers.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
I do too. But
I wonder how many books I read in a year. I was going to keep track, and I kind of...
Yeah. Well, the Goodreads app is really good for me for that. I know some people write it down. There are other apps out there you can use.
I think I started writing it down, and then I sort of lost interest, so I failed
and it really helps me too, because it helps with getting ready for filming this, because then I can go back and see what I've actually read, and then I know I'm not talking about the same 4 books every time we're here, so that people aren't...
So then do you also give them stars?
Yep. You can give them a rating. You can write an actual review. Mine has 2 shelves. One is the read books, so that's everything that I have read, and then I have another one that's my to be read list.
Okay.
And at last count, my to be read list has 258 books that I want to read.
There you go.
So, which is what I think is funny, because some people are like, well, my to be read list is empty, and I'm like, how can you not have books that you want to read?
Yeah, that would not be hard.
No, so yeah.
I do have to say, though, occasionally I hit a dry spell, and it's sort of like nothing sounds that good, and almost always I end up going back to a tried and true. Hello, Carl Hyacin. Yes. And that's how I've... Mary Roberts Rinehart, Agatha Christie.
Yeah, no, I mean... It's interesting to see what different people, a lot of people, they've been reaching their goals, and other people, goals aren't super important to them. I mean, you see some people that are just getting back into reading, they'll say, I want to read 10 books this year. And then you'll have other where it's like, I've read 300 books this year. And I'm
wow, that's almost a book a day.
I know. I'm like, you are who I strive to be.
Yeah, I don't know that. At times I read a book a day. It just depends on what the book is. Because Chasing Aphrodite took me a few days, because it wasn't just like a slam dunk.
Yeah, so it's interesting though.
With those romance books, I can nail those in a day.
Yeah, you can just flip. It's the same with the Hannah Swenson novels. Most of them are around 200 pages, I think.
Okay.
They're not super thick, so those you can kind of
digest
bang out in a couple days. And cozy mysteries sort of follow that pattern. You set up the story, somebody dies, hilarity ensues as we try to solve it. And then the person
happy ending.
Person who's trying to solve it gets caught by the killer, and then the book ends happy.
Yeah, all is well that ends well.
Which is nice. They're like Hallmark movies, except with murder.
Yeah, yes, that's true. That's a good way to put it. And does she include recipes?
Yes, at the end of most chapters. And so you get very hungry for cookies.
Yeah,
or muffins, or whatever she's making.
Yeah, the cookies have been a lot lately. I've did a story about Christmas cookies, and made me want to go
bake.
Well, I'm not that good at baking, so I was contemplating buying cookies, but I never did. So maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe.
So, do you have anything you want special for Christmas? Do you have a book on your list?
Well, I have a lot of books that I want. I have a couple that I've asked for. One of them is a graphic novel, which is, I don't know, you could refer to it as a grown-up comic book, but at the same time, that's going to make people who read graphic novels very angry. So there's a podcast I listen to, and they've made, has role-playing games in it, so Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, sure.
And so they've taken one of the story arcs and turned it into a graphic novel. Okay. And so I've asked for that. It's called The Adventure Zone, and I think the name of it is Here There Be Gerblins, which is you have to listen to it to understand.
Understand it.
But I'm just that nerdy. So I mean, I always have a lot of books, and a lot of times it's just easier to be like, give me an Amazon gift card or a Barnes & Noble gift card and let me pick it out myself.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to be said for those kind of gift cards, because buying books can be, if you don't know specifically, it can be a tough thing because you just, I mean, because if I love it doesn't mean you're going to love it.
Yeah.
I mean, one would assume you would love it, but one doesn't always know.
Are you asking for books this year?
I did not put any books, but I put movies on my list.
Oh, okay.
And, but the books, the thing about books is when I want a book, I want it now. And so I don't want to wait for it.
Yeah.
So, on that note, you're going to have to wait for the next episode because this is it for Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and good reading.
Yeah.